As host of this show, I've spoken to many famous actors, authors, and politicians, but I've rarely had the chance to interview them with their parents. With us now are Bill Gates and his father, Bill Gates Sr. Do I have to tell you that the younger Mr. Gates is the founder of Microsoft and of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, currently the world's largest charitable organization. Bill Gates Sr., the co-chair of that foundation, is an attorney and an activist, and his book about family called Showing Up for Life has just been released in a paperback edition by Broadway Books. He wrote it with Mary Ann Mackin. I'm very pleased to welcome both Bill Gateses to our show today. Hello.
Hi.
Glad to be here.
You'll be appearing together tonight at the 92nd Street Y, which is offering discounted tickets to family members who attend the event together. Have you participated in events like this before where you speak to parents and their teenagers together?
No, this will be a first.
No.
We're looking forward to it.
No, I agree with Bill. I think this is unprecedented.
You'll be taking questions from the audience, and I assume there are some questions that you can almost 100% count on being asked.
Yes.
Well, what do you expect?
Well, how did you raise him?
Well, we'll get into some of that in this conversation. Teenagers are notorious for being difficult, and I wonder about Bill. Did he give you trouble when he was growing up?
Well, I think we did not completely avoid the parent and child conflicts that occur. No. It was. I think it was probably fairly typical, particularly in the early teens. And
well, how would you characterize yourself as a kid, Bill?
Yeah, I got that over with by the time I was 10 or 11, which was good. So by the time I'm in high school, the fact my parents are sharing the challenges they have, talking about the broad world, bringing over friends who are also doing interesting things, I got some confidence in working with adults that I think was very helpful.
And you've said that you and your father have had a smooth relationship since you were 12 or 13 years old when you realized that your parents were on your side.
That's right.
Most kids don't realize that.
Well, eventually they do. It's a question of when.
Yeah, usually in their early 20s.
No, I was a tiny bit precocious in fighting early and realizing that wasn't what really counted.
And he surprised you by allowing you to accept a job while you were still in high school.
That's right. I wasn't sure if my parents would support that, and yet it was a cool opportunity. I missed a fair bit of my senior year, but my mom and dad were allowed it to happen, and that put me on my way.
Well, how did you react, Bill Sr., when Bill dropped out of Harvard? He did it twice, didn't he?
Yes, he did. The first occasion was not actually dropping out. He took off a semester to go to New Mexico and work on the work that was going on there with his software enterprise. We weren't terribly apprehensive, and as a matter of fact, he did go back. But then after being back for a semester, he decided again he needed to go to New Mexico, and we were quite apprehensive that at that point maybe he wasn't ever going to finish college. In the ordinary sense, he didn't finish college. He did later get a degree, and it was an honorary degree.
Is this one of the reasons that the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has focused so much on education?
Yeah, I think my education allowed me to be successful. And I think my dad would say the same. I know my wife would say the same. And that opportunity isn't equally available. We have public education, but it's not as good as it needs to be. And so that is our primary focus here in the United States.
Does the whole family spend a lot of time together? I mean, are you discussing the problems of American high schools or eliminating polio in India over a Sunday dinner?
Well, they have a family of their own, and the ability to get together with children and grandchildren is not something that occurs all the time. But on those occasions when we're together, we do have serious conversations, yes.
When did you first become aware that your son had an unusual aptitude for math and science?
Well, pretty early. junior high school, I'd say, it became apparent that these were things that came easily to him, and that and even more the things that he was absorbed in, that captured his interest.
Does having a child with special gifts also bring certain parenting challenges?
Well, that was a part of what we referred to earlier in this conversation, that he had because of his intelligence and his view of the world, he had a sense of independence at a very, very early age, and that was not exactly consistent with his view that his mother and dad had about what it was all about. But
well, my father wasn't the kind of guy who gave much advice other than because that would have meant putting down the newspaper and talking to us. But did your father give you a lot of advice when you were growing up?
At key times, my dad was very helpful. Early in the company, we actually had a legal dispute, and I called up my dad, talked to him at length, and sticking through that one.
Well, he's a lawyer, so you got free legal advice.
Absolutely. And at various stages, looking at taking the company public, some of the drawbacks of that as we were going, being able to chat with my dad, who had dealt with very sophisticated business things, and by then my mom was on various boards and had experience. It was a real help to me.
What about that referendum in Washington State on income tax? How do you think it's going to go?
Well, my dad's leading the charge on that to make the tax system more progressive. We actually have a fairly regressive tax structure.
And Washington State is considered one of the more progressive states in the country, isn't it?
Not on tax structure, certainly.
No.
And, yet you get this divide of some people saying, well, is government spending all the money perfectly? And other people saying, even if not, medical needs, educational needs keep growing. And so I'm afraid the whole debate about taxation is going to get more divisive. And income taxes, probably got to be part of that picture. And it is in most states today. I think there's about 6 or 7 that don't have it. It is the most progressive element.
Well, some of these referendums, California, they had a vote on cutting taxes, and it seems to have hurt the state from that moment on, but nobody seems to want to reverse it. The state is in near bankruptcy.
Yeah, well, it's very weird where you get an asymmetry where you make it easy to cut taxes. That's a majority vote at one time. Then to get back that tax, they require these super majorities, and you combine that with the need to balance the state budget, then you start doing extremely artificial things of canceling the projects and furloughs. States are not planning ahead, and they're not even doing the accounting right on some of the pension obligations, health obligations. Government's going to have to grow up and get the accounting right and get these debates to be longer term.
As I understand it, your fortune is currently not subject to tax because you've used it to establish a charitable trust.
Well, I paid a lot in income taxes. I paid well over $5 billion. The foundation itself, as I give virtually all the money to that piece will not be subject to an estate tax.
There was a time when you and a few other people were criticized for not being more philanthropic, and then you became incredibly philanthropic. Was it a change of heart, or had you always known that you were going to make this move?
The criticism was totally wrong. You're right. He was criticized, but it was misplaced because Bill has always been generous, and from year one when the company was going, he's been a model citizen.
We don't have much more time, but I'm wondering about what's happening at Microsoft. Are there any things in the works that are going to astound us in the next year or two?
Absolutely. I'm full-time at the foundation and much more up to date on those things. But as a board member, I see that the research and products, plenty of things to surprise people there. Computers are starting to see, and the Xbox game will get a camera and watch you. And that kind of thing will spread to the phone, the PC. So whether it's watching, seeing, listening, computers are getting a lot better with Magic software.